Welcome everyone to Talent Experience Live, your weekly look at all things talent acquisition, human resources, recruiting, and quite frankly, everything in between. We like to say here, the Talent Experience Live is the greatest show on the internet. And you know what? No one's ever come back and said it isn't. So we're going to continue to say it. That's right. This is better than your favorite podcast. It is better than any show streaming on HBO Max. I'm talking to you, The Last of Us, although I am a fan of that show. And of course, Talent Experience Live is proudly brought to you by the good folks here at Phenom, whose purpose is to help 1 billion people find the right job. That is not a typo. That is not an error on our part. We truly are trying to help 1 billion people find the right job. It is the reason why I show up to work every day. It is the reason why our folks in sales, in engineering, in IT, everyone in between, our recruitment team, we are all trying to help 1 billion people find the right job. And one way we are doing that is through our upcoming conference in the tail end of March. I believe it's the 27th through the 30th. And that is I Am Phenom, located in Philadelphia. So if you haven't registered, the 28th through the 30th. So if you haven't registered yet, what are you doing? You're missing out on earliest bird pricing. You can 100% go to IamPhenom.com right now and register for earliest bird pricing. I believe it's like 60% off. So don't miss your chance because the early bird gets the worm. And if you wait last minute, you're going to have to pay full price. And if you're anything like me, you never like paying full price. But what we will talk about, I can guarantee you at I Am Phenom, is our intelligent talent experience platform and how it helps candidates find the right fit faster, employees evolve in their current roles, recruiters be more efficient, which is what we are talking about today on Talent Experience Live, and managers build better teams with data, analytics, and of course, automation. Now, you can't say automation nowadays without talking about artificial intelligence. And of course, Phenom's intelligent talent experience platform is powered by super slick artificial intelligence. So if you're interested in learning more, head on over to phenom.com and you'll notice the banner at the top, which could direct you and will direct you to IamPhenom.com, where you can get your tickets for the event coming up in March. Now, like I said, today we are talking about recruiter efficiency. And today we are joined by the director of IT at SASR Workforce Solutions to chat about how they have been scaling their staffing business so quickly and the needs and challenges that come along with rapid growth. But before we get into that, it is tradition around these parts to do a bit of an icebreaker. So I ask you, the audience at home, whether you are grabbing your first cup of coffee because you are on the West Coast, whether you are settling in for lunch over here on the East Coast, or if you're anywhere in the middle of the country, perhaps you're just wrapping up your morning meetings and getting ready for lunch, what is your favorite movie? It's a bit of an odd kind of icebreaker question, but last night I hopped on Netflix like many of us do at the end of an evening, and I found Blue Streak, which was one of my childhood favorite movies. Really anything that Martin Lawrence did in between 1999 and probably like 2005, I was a huge fan of. If you've never seen Blue Streak, watch it. It's on Netflix. I know I probably shouldn't be promoting them, but you guys are going to watch Netflix anyway. So neither here nor there. Jump into the chat with your favorite movie. I always love movie suggestions, especially as award season is coming up. I think the Oscars are going on right now. So definitely drop that in there. And while you do that, I am going to bring on our guest today, who is none other than Bradley Cooper, the director of IT at SASR Workforce Solutions. And he's going to talk about how his team and SASR's recruitment team has truly become more efficient. So without any further hesitation, let's welcome on Bradley. Bradley, how are you today?
I am doing amazing. And yourself?
I'm doing all right. It's a little bit hectic over here. I'll let you in on a little secret today. I rode into work using my little electric bike. Terrifying. I was riding through the streets of Philadelphia at 6 o'clock in the morning. I need to get some lights on that. The brakes work great, though. I will let you know there. Bradley, I see some people jumping into the chat already. Sandy says Big is an all-time favorite movie of hers. And Maggie says Pride and Prejudice is her favorite, based on the book by Jane Austen, of course. Maggie, book or movie better? You got to let us know. And Bradley, while she lets us know, what's your favorite movie of all time?
Well, I think I can kind of talk to what Maggie says there. Love, tons of movies out there. It's hard to choose. Princess Bride is always a favorite, but one of my favorite all-time stories is A Knight's Tale by Chaucer. So the Heath Ledger version of The
Yes.
Knight's Tale is a movie. When I'm looking for something, I'm bored. Just whatever it is, I can put it on. I know I'm going to enjoy it, and it's going to be a fun movie to watch. So,
Heath Ledger, handsome man in that movie too. I will say it. I love turning that one on. It makes my fiance happy as well. Maggie says the book is better. Bradley, is the Knight's Tale book better? I've never read it. I will be honest on this program.
so the entire Chaucer epic is pretty awesome, but taking Old Middle English, Early English, and translating it into an updated, semi-modern vision of the movie, I'm going to go with the movie, but I'm always going to be able to read the book as well.
All right, that's fair. That's fair. I will add it to my read list. Right now, I'm reading Heat 2, based on, of course, the movie Heat. I do like that one. So maybe I have a goal to read 10 books this year. It sounds like The Knight's Tale might be a little bit long, so maybe I'll shorten it down to 10 if I add that one to my list. But Bradley, the other question that we always love to ask folks is, rarely, there are some off chances that folks, when they grow up, they say, I want to be in human resources. I want to ask you, has this been, working in the HR industry, has this always been a dream of yours? And in turn, how did you end up in HR if that's not the case, and SASR?
Yeah, so it's it's a really long story. I'll try to keep short. I may not look it, but I'm mid 40s, so I've been around a while, and started working when I was very young at about 14 and a half. So did a little bit of everything. Worked for the U.S. Forest Service, doing stuff over the summer in high school. Got into grocery, like many high school students do, front end, bagger cashier, stock crew, and then continued to do some other stuff, some manufacturing, went to Newport News Shipbuilding and Dry Dock, welded, so built aircraft carriers and submarines. And then at some point I said, I really want to get into the medical field, and I've always wanted to be in the Army. So joined the Army back in 2005 as a medic, and did a couple tours. But one of the things you don't realize when you join as a medic, you end up doing a lot more than just taking care of people. You end up doing a lot of admin. You do data because you're doing injury and illness tracking. And so my dogs are in the hotel room with me, so that's why I've got.
It's totally okay.
So let me mute for.
No, it's funny you mentioned the grocery store there. I grew up, I worked at a produce stand, and a lot of people take for granted what their fruit looks like or their produce looks like when it goes in. You have to sort through some nasty things. So not only did you get some of that experience for the medical field of, not that they're comparable at all, of course, but working with some things that some people may not, but also now you have the admin stuff working for the military. And thank you for your service as well, but I'll let you continue your story.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And my pack over here might speak up from time to time. So,
it's okay.
But yeah, so, just natural progression, 12 years in the military, mid-career, one of the things they do, it's either you go drill sergeant or recruiter. So I went recruiter and became a healthcare recruiter. So doctors, dentists, nurses, all allied health, college universities, hospitals, working with, the medical societies and all that to try to fill the needs of the U.S. Army. So very, very long process. In some cases, you're looking at upwards of 18 months to work with a candidate, 56-page security application. But you're really changing lives, right? So, when somebody comes to you, whether they're 18 looking for a scholarship or 45 years old, and it's something they want to do because they just always want to do it, and they've got buddies that are physicians that are in the Army and things. It gives you purpose every day. And I had a few life changes that just made me want to stay in the Raleigh-Durham area, including meeting my fiance at the time. Before we were engaged, and so I decided to leave the Army, and SASR found me and led me into what I do now with them, and that's a secondary long story. So I'll take a pause there if there's any questions.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think it's always so interesting hearing how people get into the world of human resources, right? And so many times when I ask that question, people kind of say, hey, it found me, right? Like there was an option, a path. I'll give you an example for myself. I started off in sales. I like to say that sales and recruiting are oftentimes very synonymous, right? You are selling an organization to a candidate versus say traditional sales. You're selling what that organization is selling to an audience, right? So a lot of transferable skills there. And for you, it was expertise, right? That understanding of what is needed from the medical field within the armed service, and then looking to fill those roles. So that is exciting. But you mentioned there SASR found you. So I have to ask you,
Yeah.
for those who may not be familiar with SASR, how would you give your elevator pitch? Let's say if you ran into them at a grocery store. I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to tell you really what the difference here is, I just talked about an 18-month life cycle for a candidate. So I didn't know SASR, I didn't even think, it wasn't an industry I thought about. So, day one, the interview calls, I had to learn what we were. 5.5 years later, I've gotten a lot better explaining what SASR does, but I'm still always trying to find the right way. So when we think about it, we're high volume staffing, meaning that we hire a lot of people every year to service our clients. And we work within several sectors of the retail industry that support that. So we're talking, as I mentioned, my grocery experience, grocery stores, C-stores, home improvement, large big box, all the major retailers, the pharmacies, the CVSs, the Walgreens and stuff out there. And we do that with either a direct, consultative type relationship with our strategic partners where we're providing the total solution, or in some cases, we have partners that come to us and say, hey, we need some help with our staffing needs, and we need that skilled labor that can do merchandising, maybe work in warehouses and logistics, and can you help us fill those gaps? So we work anywhere from a half-day project one time all the way up to multi-month, multi-year projects where we travel folks. So a way I like to think about it a lot of times is just the easiest way is most likely at some point you've had a SASR employee in your facility, your store. You just might not have realized it was us working because we're either working as a direct relationship or is that kind of secondary relationship.
Yeah. Absolutely. I think that the best example is SASR's there, but you don't feel that they're there, right? They don't feel like they are a separate entity from the organization. Now, you mentioned that SASR found you, and being the fact that we do get a ton of recruiters that tune into the show, I have to ask you, how did they hook you? What got you? Because you weren't familiar, as you mentioned. Was it an outreach email? Was it somebody cold calling? And now that you've been there for 5.5 years, and quite frankly, mastered the elevator pitch, I will say. What what do you love about your job?
Oh, so you're asking me to go back in memory here a little bit, but
I'm sorry. I caught you off guard.
no. Honestly, I think at the time I had a little bit of buffer between me and the Army, so I wasn't in a rush to look for work. I was going back to school at the time, so my main goal was find something I could work around the school, college schedule. But I was like 3 layers deep in with AT&T. I had done the video recorded questions and all that, and then out of the blue, I get an invite over email saying, "Hey, we found you. Love to have a conversation." And at the time, it was the VP of recruiting had actually reached out to me, and we just had a conversation. She asked if I was available, and then went into the office. And next thing I know, later that evening, I had an offer. So, 5 years ago, it was a pretty standard recruiting experience, I would say. Hitting all the job boards, not really fostering my LinkedIn growth as I have over the last few years. That type of stuff to build a network. My network was all military or hospitals or colleges and universities, not the staffing industry. So, but I think the second half of your question was what made me fall in love with it. It's still what excites me every day is, as a medic, you change lives, right? You save lives, you make people feel better. Volunteering with a dental clinic in North Carolina where we did free clinics, once again, you're making smiles happen, so you see that personal impact every day. But on what I see at SASR is, 1.4 million hours of work last year that we did throughout the United States during COVID. Once again, a million hours, 1.2 million. That is all payroll that goes back into a local community. That's not just individual SASR employees that we're paying to do great work. They're investing in their communities by spending that hard-earned wage into their community. So the way I see it is we're making a U.S. impact because we're mainly U.S., but some of our vendor partners are international. So I like to think we're making a global impact. And when you work in something that you do, you see the power, the positive impact, the power of work through the people that you work with. It's just easy to get up and do it every day. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that sentiment of you are funding communities, right? Where folks are going to earn their hard-earned paycheck, and they're not going to immediately put it into their bank account or whatever. Like, they have mouths to feed. They have to go out into the community. They probably want to maybe even relax after a tough day's work. I know when I worked in the retail environment and produce environment, the first thing that I wanted to do was go get a cooked meal for me because I was tired of putting together deli sandwiches. But neither here nor there. You mentioned your process when you got hired from SASR and how you interviewed and later that day you had an offer in your inbox. Sounds like a very efficient process for that point in time. Now, I understand, I'm sure that things have gotten complicated and your process is not quite the same as it used to be 5.5 years ago. But how does SASR help their employees, their recruiters be more efficient today? Is there anything that you've unveiled? Is there any piece of technology that you're really leveraging that says this is giving them that time to make an impact in candidates' day?
Yeah, so just the quick split here, is we have our recruiting for corporate, our agency, our staff that makes the business run. And, that was the experience I had. But then, all those folks that I'm talking about making that national, that global impact that we employ, they come through a dedicated recruiting team that is focused on that team. And it really is two completely different experiences. So, corporate recruiting, I would say that's still a pretty standard experience for most folks, using all the job boards, all the LinkedIn, connecting to our ATS and things like that, because that's more as needed by the business, right? Whereas on the flip side of that, on our recruiter side, what we truly define as a recruiter, we started about 2 years ago looking at what opportunities we had to grow and scale. And one of the things that we realized working with some of those consultant partners that we did was we didn't have a great way to really effectively manage our candidates that were coming through the pipeline. There was a lot of automation built, but no personal touch to it. So folks would come in, they would hit our system, start filling out documents, and it may or may not get placed. So we started slow, tried a few other solutions, kind of built some stuff internally, and then really through our opportunities mapping that we did, found basically the top two contenders. We're talking about the Stanley Cup, and I'm lost my train of thought here. So, but Super Bowl, it's the best of the best. So we narrowed it down to two folks two solutions that we thought were the best ones to service us, and we chose Phenom. Phenom was what we said was lacking, because it was hard for us to do talent communities, be able to set up campaigns to folks that showed interest but weren't really interested at the time, or maybe the fit wasn't right at the time. Being able to segment by industry, or as I mentioned, like grocery store, home improvement, that type of stuff as well. So really on that front end is we had to build out an entire recruiting process that was around how do we get these folks interested, get them as fast as we can? Because when you're talking about one recruiter being responsible for 30 hires a month, you know, we don't have a lot of time to let people sit, you
Yeah.
know, because we just have that much of a need for folks to go to work. And, so it's all about the ease of application, not necessarily selling who SASR is, but really telling who we are, showing who we are. Our career site wasn't really a career site; it was more of a job listing. And then even on the back end, things like having to take a candidate out of one solution, move it into another solution and a booking tool and it was a shared booking. Whereas, bringing on Phenom, it added a lot of enhancements to what we had available to us. And then we were able to enhance and improve our processes to become more efficient. So.
Yeah. No, one thing you mentioned there was, you had to hire, recruiters have to hire 30 folks a month. And I automatically think you mentioned the difference between corporate, hires, and then some of these folks that are going to be out working on behalf of SASR in grocery stores, in warehouses, whatever that may be. If you're, short a person, and I'll speak for myself here, if someone's sick or something on the marketing team, we're able to pick things up and keep moving. If somebody's sick in a grocery store or in a warehouse, you have to pull people from different places. They don't have time to wait to get somebody out on the floor. So that efficiency and that speed, it sounds like, was super vital, not just for SASR, but also the organizations that you're helping, right, at the end of the day. And pulling up some of those candidates in talent communities or sending out campaigns to keep them top of mind is always going to help a recruiter, no matter what situation you're in. Now, I have to ask you, you said you were torn between Phenom and another organization. What was it about Phenom? Was it our super slick marketing that did it? Bradley, tell me it was Talent Experience Live that you said, that's it, we're signing on the dotted line. Of course I kid, but what exactly was it?
So as I kind of grew with the company, I kind of grew into this role. So the first part of kind of the discovery journey, I wasn't part of, but I kind of caught into it in the middle to the last part. And I think ultimately, one, it was the product itself. What was being offered, Phenom specializing in those products, whereas a lot of, and this is just something I found across the board, demoing everything from front end technology to ATSs to HRSs, is so many people are trying to do it all now, that there's a little bit of everything with them. But that was one of the things, Phenom really focused and built out the front end candidate engagement, interviewing solutions, over trying to handle payroll and things like that with some of the other solutions. But I think it was the team that we worked with. They worked with, because we also were in the process, and we just launched not too long ago, replacing our staffing platform that we home grew. And so that partner helped, and with the Phenom team really came to the table with the vision that we wanted. They put it on paper, the end-to-end solution of what that candidate to employee lifecycle would be. And being that Phenom was the front end of that, that's such an important part. That's one of the biggest reasons we went with it, was because we were able to, before we made our final decision, was that Phenom could not only bring value the day we launched it, but it was with we felt it was with an organization that was going to continue to bring value and work with us as we grew and scaled as well. Because nothing, especially nowadays, nothing stays the same for more than a week or two. So.
No, and I liked what you mentioned there, was almost the connectivity, but to an extent, right? It wasn't overarching where everything was trying to be built. You have your own payroll solution. You weren't looking to change that. But I oftentimes think of, because you also mentioned not having to copy and paste candidates into different technologies. And the example that I always use, I don't know if you're an Apple or Android user, but I myself am an Apple user. And I love that my phone connects to my watch, which connects to my laptop, which even connects to Apple TV when the latest season of Ted Lasso comes out. I love that I will get a notification on my watch, whether I'm at the gym, maybe not when I'm driving, that's probably not the best, but no matter where I am, it's like, hey, you have this new episode, definitely tune in to watch it. And I think of that, like that connection where if someone accesses your career site, submits half an application and then comes back, you have access to that in different tools, right? And one of the things that you mentioned was booking technology. So I have to ask you, are you leveraging a scheduling tool or anything like that? And if so, how is that helping your recruiters on a daily basis?
Yeah, so that was that was definitely I would say a big win for us, with leveraging the Phenom scheduling AI. I think I mentioned that, we used an outside booking tool where we kind of had, it was centralized. The recruiter manager was trying to, manage, track all that stuff. So on the recruiter side, now, easily able to see, one, it's integrated with our 365 account. So, you don't have to maintain multiple Outlook calendar and then another calendar. It's all right there in what you work in every day. If, say, we as a company decide to have a company meeting, or even their recruiting manager wants to get a 11 o'clock huddle on a Friday, put it on the calendar. It syncs with Phenom. It syncs with the candidate experience. And then on the candidate or the applicant experience is what we were really challenged with is and I failed to mention this up front, is unlike a lot of staffing companies, we're centrally based out of Cary, North Carolina, and manage all of this work, all of this hiring from that office in North Carolina with a few remote staff. But so we don't have branches like your traditional staffing where you would go in and see your hiring manager or work with somebody. So a lot of times people were missing their interview appointments because they would only see the East Coast time and they lived in California. So they missed the appointment by 3 hours, or, we're in Central Time and things like that. Whereas now with the scheduling tool, it's providing them the time that's right for them and their their time zone versus what we're working. So to them, they just know, hey, I'm available at 11 o'clock. I'm scheduling at 11 o'clock, but that might be 2 p.m. for us. So that, I think leveraging that really improved both the recruiter and the applicant experience.
Yeah. No, I from my recruitment background, I remember I was based out of Jacksonville, Florida, but they were opening up 3 new branches. One was in Las Vegas, one was in Seattle, and one was in Charlotte, North Carolina. And I remember trying to communicate with a candidate who was based in Washington, but that office wasn't open yet. So they needed to, sit out of Chicago or wherever. And I'm trying to do mental math to schedule these interviews for somebody else. To just press send, it sounds like it's significantly easier. And we had a conversation last week with a recruiter, Greg Chandler, who mentioned, and multiply that even, you mentioned different parts of our country. Even internationally, you can have time zone nightmares. Sometimes the British are 6 hours ahead. Sometimes they're 5. I can't keep up anymore. Daylight savings time. Is it happening? Is it not? Arizona's the same sort of thing. But neither here nor there. It sounds like this has helped the business. What I want to ask you is, obviously, you mentioned staffing, right? And helping out organizations. And we kind of chatted about it a little bit, where speed is very important to help your clients get talent into the door quickly. But oftentimes when I have conversations with folks who may be recruiting more for the corporate side of the business, they say personalization is most important. When it comes to your industry, is it speed? Is it personalization? Is it a combination of both? What does that look like for SASR?
Yeah, so it is definitely a combination of both. And the personalization is key, both from being able to have what you need as an applicant or a candidate at your fingertips the way you want it. But it's also about having that conversation with, somebody in the organization that can help you along. But at the same time, speed is very vital to us as an organization because, one, we're looking to fill the roles for our clients. But two, a lot of times for the employees, they're the type of staffing that we do. It's a lifestyle. It's mobile first. Most of the folks that are applying using a mobile device, not a computer. They don't have resumes handy or ready. If they do, some of the higher level more skilled positions will, but for example, like a general merchandiser, they're looking for work and they're looking for it today. They're not looking to go through a multi-step interview process, things like that. So the longer we wait to have the conversation with them, the less likely they're going to be interested in the organization. So speed is paramount for both the candidate and for SASR. And I think in a way we tried to make it too speedy when we first launched Phenom. We said, we work in a business that skills can be taught. We're really looking for the people who want to be part of an organization with our values, with serving with love, doing the right thing, creating solutions and delivering, exceptional results. So we'd rather have our recruiters have 30 minutes to spend with you on the phone to discuss who we are, who you are, and, how do you fit with the values of our organization. And so we just said, hey, we just want to know your name, your phone number, and your email. And then we realized, wait a minute, we don't know where this person lives. So we actually had to go backwards and add in a minimum of, at least a city state, and the reason for that, we thought, well, we'd be able to figure it out by the job. And we travel folks. I mean, we probably 50 to 75% of our work, folks are able to travel. We manage their bookings and their hotels for them. We have a whole team that helps our folks go from job to job. And, so we're always trying to find ways to balance that speed. And, I think the last time I checked, I want to say in under 2 minutes, we've got folks hitting the Phenom site, checking out a page, checking out a job, and applying and getting into that pipeline for the interview. So, and recently I helped my fiance go through some travel nursing applications that took days. And, so I really appreciated how much work that we did to try to streamline it as much as we could, make it mobile first, easy on the mobile phone, and ask for, what's the most important information that we need from somebody to move them into the point where they're going to have a conversation. Because our goal is really everybody that comes to our organization, be it a new employee or even a rehire, because once again in staffing, folks come and go, and based on how their situation is, or what job situation is in their area. So, we may have somebody that worked for us last year, and then they're coming back to us again. It's all about that personal conversation and that true interview process to make that final offer to move into the organization.
Absolutely. What you mentioned there was it takes 2 minutes, to fill out the application, but you followed up with a 30-minute conversation with the candidate. And I think that's the level of personalization that probably sets SASR apart, right? It's understanding, hey, we're not going to sit you down for a 30-minute application, so that, and in your fiance's case, a 3-day application, which sounds horrifying to me, but neither here nor there. We want to get to know you as the person, so we can find the best role for you and get you there so that you can be successful, right? It's not just about speed, turn and burn, kind of like I used to do it when I was waiting tables, right? It's let me get the next table in there. It's no, we want you to have the easiest process that you can, and then we want to get to know you from there. The next piece that I wanted to call out there was, you mentioned you had to go back. The process was a little bit too fast. And I want to use a NASCAR terminology. It's almost like you're driving as fast as you can with no brakes. You had to say, hold on, let's put the city state in there and make sure that we're finding the people in the right location. I can relate to that. I sometimes was a little bit careless as a recruiter, and I would just put in my own zip code in our applicant tracking system at the time. That was terrible, Bradley. I'll tell you, when I was looking for a candidate, I'd be like, oh, there are a ton of candidates in
Yeah,
this area. No, they're not. If you're familiar with Philadelphia, they
yeah,
are, 20 miles away,
yep.
but it takes 2 hours to get there because Route 76 is absolutely a nightmare. I digress. How has the application process helped your recruitment team by making it a combination of both easy as well as gathering that crucial information? Have they seen an influx of candidates? Are they able to reach out to them quicker with a better understanding of, okay, they're in the Cary, North Carolina area. I know that they potentially could be fit for 4 or 5 positions. Let me get them on the phone so that I can chat with them and find out which would be best for them. Has that helped?
Yeah, so I think to kind of go back to, if we go back to our original homegrown technology, it was all about automation, speed to get somebody into the system. And so we collected way too much personal stuff up front, like we're at without a conversation. Then we jumped into Phenom and said, okay, well, we want to make it so streamlined. We're not going to ask for, but the only way for us to basically create a lead list, right?
Yeah.
And then we go, well, okay, we need to balance that a little bit. And as I was talking about the company earlier, one of the challenges we have is because we're generally recruiting, so yes, we do want to have folks that have experience in merchandising and logistics and warehouse and C stores, convenience stores, maybe in grocery. We're not looking for like highly skilled positions in the way where, there's degree specialization, certification specialization, and then we're doing that across the nation. So somebody I talked to in Florida is going to be completely different than somebody I talked to in Seattle. I mean, a great example is, call to offer somebody a job in Brooklyn or Long Island. It's a 0.75 miles from their house, and they're like, no, that's too far. I'm not working. You go out to Montana and say, hey, this job's over in Bozeman. They're like, oh, that's great. I only live 6 hours away. I'll drive there on Monday. As you really do have to understand your different markets. So, we're always recruiting in the big cities, right? The state capitals, the major metropolitan, because there's always a ton of work. But a lot of our work, with like the dollar stores, they're rural. They're out there where people are you might not have the normal candidate pool. So as we built, one, we had our existing database and our former employees and former applicants. As this past year, as we've grown that in Phenom, we start, leveraging, a combination of, like drip campaigns. You have your kind of static one-time list where it's kind of like, we know this group of people, we just want to hit them one time because they were all previous employees, and it's a come back to work campaign.
Yeah.
Or we might have, something like, okay, well, this is a warehouse job, so this means everybody that's applied to this is interested in warehouse work. Well, maybe we only needed 10 folks at that time, or maybe this was just not the right timing for all the application we have. So then we can start doing things like more dynamic list, where if somebody's just an applicant or maybe they showed some interest, we can start building campaigns that are, for all intents and purposes, living campaigns, or dynamic, where, they can kind of go in and out of that drip cycle of how do they interact. And that's been very important. And I'll probably say one of the areas I think that it's been highlighted is actually that rehire population, is we've been able to re-engage former employees in a way that maybe is a lot more meaningful to them.
Yeah.
Versus before, yep, they were in our system, they got the daily or the weekly job digest, or if something pushed out. So it wasn't relative to the point of, yep, I know SASR keeps sending me jobs, I'll see them one day. Whereas now with our marketing team, we can go in and build, something that's, one, eye catching, that instead of just like a list of jobs, but can speak to something that's going on in the company. Like, so this year, we set a new standard across the board of, our base rate would be 15 and above. in every zip code. So we operate in 42,000 zip codes.
Sure.
So we could highlight that, or, maybe we've got some upcoming opportunity with, say some of those dollar stores that people love to work at, but we didn't,
Hmm.
maybe, because our business is cyclical and seasonal in some cases.
Yeah,
Nobody
absolutely.
wants to be remodeling their store in the middle of Christmas shopping season, right? So, so we can customize outreach around those.
Hmm.
So we'll say, hey, this, our projects with this client are coming back, starting in May or starting in February or whatever that may be, and those are the valuable pieces of information that our rehires are looking for. So instead of
Yeah.
just waiting for a job to drop in the system, we can do some proactive recruiting. We can do, that continuous outreach, be able to start sharing stuff similar like items, right? So maybe it's not a dollar store, but it's still a travel assignment with a big box store. And part of the
Yeah.
reason I liked it was travel. So now they're seeing travel. So being able to kind of manage that, all important, and I mean it's marketing.
Yeah.
Bottom line, it's the marketing part of it, but is staying in communication in a way that's not just spamming people with a list of jobs that we throw into the system every time we have a list of jobs to throw into the system.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. And I was listening to a podcast. I want to say a week or two ago, and it was with a lawn care organization, and it was that they weren't just recruiting for lawn care professionals. If they did that, if they typed that into a job board, they'd never find anyone. Right? They are competing with other organizations, the malls, the retail operations. To your point, if someone is working in a dollar store and they want to work in a, a traveling position with one of these big box stores, the skills are very similar, I will say. And also to your point, and I love this that you mentioned at the top of the episode, skills can be taught, right? You are not disqualifying anyone because they don't check all of the boxes right off the bat. These things can be taught. You can grow someone's career. And when you talk about, even if it is a short term position over the holidays, like you mentioned as well, you're looking to bring those folks back because they did good work and you want to continue that and continue to have them grow. And I also want to commend you on the $15 an hour, no matter where the area code is. That is an absolutely fantastic marketing campaign. And I think that's awesome. Bradley, I know I've loved this conversation. I could talk to you all day. I saw a couple of people mention to check out SASR.link, or excuse me, SASRlink.com for some of these open positions, maybe sign up for some of these talent communities and things like that. But before we hop off, do you have any final thoughts? Is there anything you'd like to add? I know that I've spoken a lot. I have a tendency to word vomit every now and again. So anything that we may have missed together?
No, I think from the time I spent with SASR, the time that I spent in this digital transformation process, it wasn't just about the technology. Technology is absolutely the base of it, right? I mean, you have to have exceptional technology to be able to grow and scale with. That makes your entire process, efficient, and but it's bringing in the people who matter the most, right? So when we were launching Phenom, the recruiters were there with us. It wasn't that we just said, hey, here's a product, go forth and make it work. It was, you're part of the discussion, you're part of the testing. And then on the flip side is, I will give us a little plug for SASR. We were recognized with the Talent Board's Candidate Experience Award for the second time this year, moved up a little bit as well.
Yeah.
Our new office, we hosted that team for one of their candidate experience events. And, that's just one step. Is you need to know what your candidates are going through. So you need to ask. And, through partners, through awards like that, it's definitely a place to do so. But you can do it on your own as well. It's have those meaningful conversations so you can make sure you're removing any of the barriers that your recruiters or your candidates are going to face and what they do every day.
Yeah. No, I love it. And yesterday, Candidate Experience Day, I saw the talent board and the candies mentioned. So
Yep.
hopefully you got to celebrate a little bit. Also, I wanted to say I am so happy that your dogs chimed in a little bit there. This is a dog friendly show. I loved it. I am thrilled to have you on. I hope that we get to catch up at I Am Phenom a little bit in person. You're welcome back anytime that you'd like. Keep us up to date with what's happening with SASR and everything in between. Congratulations on the nominees, or excuse me, moving up in the Candidate Experience Award, the candies there. And I hope you have a wonderful weekend, Bradley. Thank you for joining.
Yeah, thank you so much, Devin. And I really appreciate the invite to share some of our insights.
Absolutely, absolutely. Check out the SASR case study. I believe that Jennifer Thomas dropped it in. And Bradley, I'll let you get back to your busy day. I know you said you had 3 calls this morning. You got some calls this afternoon. I've taken enough of your time, so I'll let you go. Thanks again.
Yep. Thank you.
Bye. That was Bradley Cooper, Director of Information Technology at SASR Workforce Solutions. He was awesome. I loved having that conversation, hearing how he got into human resources, how he started off in the armed forces, worked as a medic, then became a recruiter, fell in love with that, and continues to look to help people every day at SASR. So if you are on the job market, I saw Marla dropped in, search jobs at jobs.sasrlink.com. You can also check out their website at sasrlink.com if you're interested in using them as a vendor. I want to thank everyone for tuning in today. I know Sandy chimed in, Maggie, Jen, Marla. There's a few others, but I'm being blocked. Vernuk, it was a pleasure having you on. If you can do one thing before you leave, it is check out iamphenom.com. Our conference coming up March 28th through the 30th. You won't want to miss it. I'll be there. I'm going to make sure that Bradley Cooper is going to be there as well. Jen Thomas will be there. Maggie will be there. The entire Phenom team will be there to talk about the Intelligent Talent Experience platform and how it is powered by artificial intelligence to help candidates find the right fit faster, recruiters move more efficiently, employees evolve, and managers get the right data and analytics that they need. I hope everyone has a wonderful Thursday, and we'll see you next Thursday. Thanks again. Bye.